We're here, boys. We made it. Well, hey there. I'm Sarah, and welcome back to the series where I will be working to restore a 2002 Royal Enfield Classic 500 over a few videos, hopefully. The first step of owning any vintage bike, or really any used bike, is to buy the bike and get it home. And in today's video, I'm going to talk to you about how I searched the marketplace for Hari, what we inspected on her before I pulled the trigger, and how I got it here into my garage. Let's get into it. How did I pick out Hari from the marketplace? First of all, I knew I was looking for a project bike. I did not want to buy a new bike, whether it was from a dealership or a restored bike or modified bike from an individual. So I knew I wanted an older bike that didn't have a ton done to it yet, but was gonna need some TLC in order to get up and running. The other parameter that's really gonna hone in on the bike that you're looking for is going to be your price point. This is my first restoration, and I wasn't comfortable spending more than $2,000 on getting the bike because I knew I was going to have to put more money in order to get it running. So I wanted something that was, in my opinion, reasonably priced, if not very reasonably priced, because I don't know how much money it's going to cost me at the end to get this running and looking baller. Setting your budget now really kind of limits the bikes that you're going to see available on your marketplace, whether that's Facebook Marketplace, Craigslist, whatever. But this leads me to my first big finding of purchasing a used bike. Big finding number one. Some people try to list their bike as free when it is not free. And other people list it as $1, 20 bucks. And in general, those bikes do not cost $1. Okay, they're trying to get to the top of your search. And sometimes in the description they'll list the real price, but most times they're waiting for you to message them, for them to say, oh, this bike isn't free, but make your best offer and we'll work from there. For me, that's a little frustrating because I'm pretty new to this whole bike buying situation. So not knowing what a seller is expecting makes me a little nervous that I will be over offering. And I mean, I don't know. I don't know how much bikes are supposed to cost. I only know as much as the few months that I've been searching on Facebook Marketplace, which to me, that's not a lot of experience. So I found it to be pretty shady that people would do that. If I was a seller, I probably wouldn't do it that way. But if you're a seller on Facebook Marketplace, comment below and let me know if this tactic works well for you. From what I saw, I think other people maybe agree with me, at least in my area, because some of those bikes that were listed as free are still for sale today, and that was over a month ago, if not more. So maybe they should just put like how much they're looking for on their listing. Anyway, get off that soapbox. Essentially, I found that in my area, there were a lot of Hondas, Suzukis, and Yamahas for sale, which tells me that people in my area love those brands. That's great. However, I'm planning to restore this bike and resell it. I wasn't willing to risk trying to work in a flooded market, and filtering all those brands out left me with a lot more of the classic naked bikes, which in my opinion, I kind of like those bikes. And since it already did that for me, I decided to just look and see if there were any other Royal Enfields for sale in my area. I love my classic 350, and I thought maybe I could take any learnings I have from Rush Me over there and apply this to my new bike, and vice versa as I worked on it. And that kind of leads us to the real story. So one night I was out to dinner, and I got a message from Aaron, the samosa. He let me know that there was a listing for a 2001 Royal Enfield Classic 500 for $200. I said, please verify the price, but then in all caps, and I will Venmo you today, get me this bike. Now he and I had been talking for a while about what kind of project I wanted to start with, and he knew that I was pretty hesitant to talk to strangers, let alone on the internet. And I mean, to be fair, I have very little experience with it. I have only ever bought a used vehicle from either a dealership or my family. So the idea of talking to a stranger online coming to some kind of negotiation where I didn't make them very angry with my bad negotiation skills, and then showing up to their home, that seemed daunting. And thankfully Aaron took pity on me and he offered to start the negotiation for me and then send me screenshots of how the conversation was going so that I could learn how to talk to some of these older bike guys and what really works as a negotiation. Here's what I learned with big finding number 2. If you're gonna buy a bike or anything off of Facebook Marketplace, I don't suggest that your opening conversation statement is the bike still available? If it's listed, it's probably available, and a lot of sellers won't even respond to that question. Instead, you should ask some better questions, more like, does the bike run? When was the bike last parked? Do you have a title for the bike? What modifications were made to the bike? Things that you actually want to know that tell you, number 1, whether or not the seller can legally sell you this bike, number 2, if this bike is the project you expect it to be, or if it's going to be too much for you to bite off. And knowing these different things helps you make a better offer once you find out that the bike isn't really for sale for the price that they said it was for sale for. And I'll say that when Aaron sent me the screenshot showing me that the seller had made a typo and he really wanted $2,000 for this bike, I thought this was a catfish. I thought this was the same thing as the people offering their bike for free, but really not for free. And I just wanted to stop, right? I'm gun shy. But Aaron really thought that the bike looked in good condition, and he's got a lot more experience with what to look for in a bike. So he kept asking some more polite questions, and I'll include the screenshots here in case you're interested in how that conversation went. The seller ended up being very nice in person. But over messages, I thought that Aaron did a very good job of staying very polite, even with the more blunt responses that he got from the seller, which I think it might just be a cultural or generational difference. So when you're in the conversation with the seller, don't take everything as like they're trying to like make you angry. They maybe are just busy or aren't that experienced in texting. So after asking the more smart questions, we ended up offering, in my opinion, kind of a lowball. I was still a little peeved about the initial price typo, so I only wanted to offer $1,000, and Aaron wasn't sure that he was going to even talk to us again after that offer, but I think because Aaron had been so polite for the whole conversation, he ended up working with us, and we ended up negotiating to $1,500, which is honestly a steal for this bike. It's a nice bike, and it's almost in running condition. So after we'd agreed to a price, we decided to go over to the seller's barn and find out if he was telling the truth. And honestly, when we showed up, he's like, wait, are you buying the bike or is that lady? And Aaron's like, no, Sarah's buying the bike. I just kind of helped her with the negotiation. But once we got to the barn, we found out that this bike looked very much like the pictures that he sent us, which I'll show here. The tank was in really nice condition. There are no dents, no scratches, no rust. The mud guards, the headlight, the panniers, all no dents, no scratches, no rust. And once we were able to open up the fuel cap here, we're actually able to look inside this tank, which that is one major difference between this 2002 bike to that 2023 bike, is nowadays there's a little plate just inside the tank so that when you fill up with fuel, you don't overfill. So once the fuel gets up to that plate, you stop. It's full, and you have enough air in the tank for it to not overflow once it starts, running. But this one, you can see all the way in, and we were unable to see any kind of rust, no debris in the tank, but we did see that there was gas. So that led us to the next question of how old is the gas in this tank? It's the same age as when he parked it, which was 2 years old. But we kind of knew that was going to be the case. It's pretty dusty, right? It had sat in a barn for a while. The tires are flat. It's got old fuel, old fluids. And the key would not turn on the bike. So Aaron got out his jump box, which can jumpstart the car. We were able to plug it into the battery here and then turned the key, and we saw all the gauges turned on, all the lights worked. Once we did the turn signals, we could do high beam, low beam. Electrical seems to work. And we were actually able to do the electric start up front here, just for a blip, right? And we could hear it try, go brrr. Not fully turn over, but we could hear the electric starter try to start, which was really nice to hear. Because I did not want to have to deal with a whole bunch of electrical gremlins as my first project. Those can really get out of hand really fast. We did not want to start up the engine fully because we knew the fuel was old, and that meant that the oil is likely old. We just want to make sure that it's got the best chance it's got to actually start well. We were also able to turn this. This is a Kickstarter, and we were able to push it without having anything on. That means there's no spark. All we were doing is moving the engine, right? And we were able to do that, which showed me that the engine was not seized. I really didn't want to have to rebuild an engine as my first project, but we'll do what we have to do to get her to start now. The last couple things we wanted to check before I pulled the trigger here was the basic function of the clutch, of the transmission, and of the brakes, both the front and the rear. Now, this had been parked on the bike lift that's actually behind me right now. Seller was so sweet, he ended up selling us this bike lift a little later. I'm very excited to not be on the ground to work on poor Hari here. Anyway, it had been on this stand for 2 years, and he had parked it in first gear. Now, for those of you who are brand new to bikes, first gear means that without a running bike, in general, you can't move it. First gear has all the gears locked, all the teeth to the gears locked, which means that you need to either hold the clutch in order to push it, because the clutch disengages the transmission from the wheel, or you've got to shift it into neutral in order to move it. Now, I was happy that the bike could not move in first. That implied that first gear is probably good. And I was also happy that just holding onto the clutch fully in with no adjustment, we were able to, with a lot of force, thanks to these front tires and back tires being flat, we were able to push this bike around with just the clutch. Now, we got it off the lift, and we were able to use the brakes to stop the bike. Excellent thing. That means the brakes kind of work. Will they work at speed? I don't know. They work at pushing speed. But once it was moving a little bit, we were able to shift the bike into neutral. And then we were able to just push it around while it's in neutral. That's excellent. That means that the transmission is likely fine, I'm hoping. Now, if I were to do this again, and I was able to bring just a couple more tools, I would bring a spark plug socket set, and I would bring a compression tester tool. That would allow me to take the spark plugs out, plug in the compression tool, and use that Kickstarter or the electric starter to try to turn over the engine and see how much compression it's making. That way I would know whether or not the engine needs to be rebuilt or if it's generating enough compression to run well. We didn't have that, and honestly, this bike is such a good price, and all the parts are pretty inexpensive. I could probably buy a new engine if I really needed to. So I was able to make my decision with just the information we had. As a recap, what did we find? The good. Let's start with the good. Number one, the body panels, right? The tank, the mudguards, the panniers, all of those are in great condition. No proof that this bike had ever fallen before. I love that for this. Don't want Hari to have a sad life before me. Second, the electrical system, besides the battery, seems to be functional. No gremlins here. Third, the clutch and transmission seem to engage and disengage and shift. That is excellent, basic condition. And the front and rear brakes stop the bike. Those are excellent things to find on a used bike. So some things that we know need work. We're gonna need a new battery. This one is kaput. I tried charging it on the battery charger for multiple days. It wasn't able to hold the charge, still can't start up. So we need a new battery. The tires. Now, I probably could get away with keeping the tires and just replacing the tubes, but I'm nervous about having such old rubber in general. So I'm just gonna get new tires and new tubes and learn how to replace tires in case I ever get a flat. That seems like a thing I want to know how to do. And third, we're going to do a spark plug and carburetor clean and rebuild. That way we know with a new battery and a new clean carb setup with a new spark plug, this engine has every step up it really could get to start up well. And with that, we're also going to need to put in new fluids. And by that, I mean new gas and new oil. We're going to start by not touching the transmission fluid and see how it goes. If we decide later we need to do that, we'll make that decision when we get there. So then some things that we're just not sure of that could be projects. We don't know that the engine will run. Like I said, we didn't do the compression test. We know it's not seized, but I don't know if it'll run. It hasn't run in over 2 years. And I also don't know if the transmission will shift smoothly when I ride it. And I also don't know that the brakes will work once I'm at speed. These are drum brakes, not disc brakes. So I'm considering adding on a disc brake conversion on the front. I'm not really that concerned about the rear since 70% of your stopping force comes from the front, since you'll be pushing forward once you come to a stop. I think that might help me, as someone who's used to disc brakes, be more comfortable on this bike, and I think it might help the resale value. But those are maybes. We're just trying to get her running right now. So after your inspection and you're happy with everything, you've decided you're good with the project, that it seems like it is, you still gotta kind of cover your legal bases. In the state of Michigan, in the United States of America, we have something called a title for our vehicles. And in order for a seller to actually sell a vehicle to you, they're gonna have to fill out and sign the title to the vehicle that they're selling. Now, before they sign it and do all this stuff, you can ask to look at the title. You want to make sure that it looks like a real title. It's got to be like the thicker paper, all the fun design on it showing you what state they own it in. But they also show you the VIN, which is the vehicle identification number. You should be able to find that VIN also on the bike. Usually it's on like the fork or maybe a little bit near the rear. It's a little different per bike, but on Royal Enfields, it's usually right up in here. Do I see you? Ah, right there. Nice. It's pretty similar on Rush Me. A little different, but that's okay. So you can verify that that VIN matches the title. That way you know that this bike is the thing that they are selling you. The next thing you can do with that VIN is you can type it into your phone and Google it. There are lots of websites that will tell you if that VIN decodes to the vehicle that you're buying. It should be able to find that it's a Royal Enfield Classic 500 of a certain year. And it may also tell you whether or not there are any liens on the bike. Now that means like that a bank has a loan for this bike that the seller is trying to pay off. Or if they completed paying off the thing, but they didn't end up going through and updating their title saying that they truly own it, it's going to be complicated for you to do the title transfer, because technically the person who has the lien owns the bike, not the person who's trying to sell it to you. So you want to look for anything like that. Anything that says lien on vehicle, I probably wouldn't touch. That might feel awkward to do that kind of paperwork like near the seller, but honestly it's a stranger. Like, you don't know them. You probably won't know them after this. Also, you want to be sure that the thing that you're buying is actually going to be owned by you by the end of the day. Whether or not you know them, I think having some amount of self-preservation is fair. And if they're really offended by it, that might be a sign that maybe they don't own the bike. All right? Maybe just walk away. Since everything seemed to check out on my end with Hari here and the seller turned out to be such a nice guy, we decided to close the deal. I gave him my cash, he gave me the keys, and I got the title, and we transferred a bill of sale just to have a little piece of paperwork knowing that he has my address and my phone number and I have his, in case there's anything that comes up. It's a problem. You know, like if there was a lien on this bike. Finally, how do you get the bike home? Now, our seller told us that This bike did not run before we got there, which meant that we knew we couldn't ride it home. I personally don't have a trailer. Aaron does have a truck, so we were able to rent a trailer. I called around to a equipment rental company nearby, and I asked them if they had any trailers for rent, and that seemed to work out fine for me. But if you don't have anything like that near you, I'm sure you probably have like a U-Haul or another option that is likely gonna work just fine. So just look around, do some Googling for some trailers for rent. Otherwise, if you're lucky enough to have a buddy with a trailer, that would be even better. So to get this thing on the trailer, I learned how to strap it down and have it not fall. Now, this may seem obvious to you, but what you're looking for when you strap down a bike is to have equal and opposing tension, holding it in all the directions it needs. So to start with, we started with the handlebars. We wanted them to be strapped to the front corners of the trailer. And we went to the back. We picked a spot on the tire. You can pick a spot on the frame. And we strapped that to the two back corners. And then we went to the center of the bike and we went just over the seat here and tightened it down. This ensured that the bike could not move forward and back, and it could not move side to side that much. To do this, you're gonna need some ratchet straps. And if you're nervous about damaging your chrome or anything, you can always put some microfiber cloths over it before you ratchet strap it. That would work well. They also make some bike-specific ratchet straps, which I'm looking at. I don't own yet, but they come with like microfiber fuzzy for the handlebars so that the chrome doesn't get all scratched up. Those are nice. But we strapped it down the best we could. We had pretty good tension on the straps. So then we left, and a little bit down the road, not very far, we found a gas station. We pulled over, Aaron got some gas, then I went to the trailer and I tried moving Hari to make sure that after we rode down that driveway and down that dirt road that nothing shook loose, right? And it was all good. So then the real only hurdle is to unload your bike once you get home. The big trick is to not drop your bike, which I almost did. The bruises on my legs are healing, but essentially I was able to keep the bike up using my legs. She's very unstable without good tire pressure, so that was a challenge that I had not experienced before. But I did successfully get her here without dropping her, so everything's good, everything's happy. I have my project, and so far I'm very excited. And that wraps up the story of how I got Hari into my garage. In the next video, I'm really hoping to get my hands dirty. I'd like to get the accessories off of her and drain all the fluids, show you how to do that. And in these videos, I really want to keep them quite bite-sized and approachable for new riders. That way I can convince as many new riders just like me that restoring an older bike is work, but it's doable, right? It's not so overwhelming. So if you are interested in that journey to come along with me, please like this video and subscribe to the channel. If you have a ton of experience restoring bikes and you want to share that with me, please leave me a comment below. I'd love to hear any tips, tricks, information you got, or anything you want to share with a new rider. I think that's a great way to use the comment section. Anyway, thank you so much for watching today's video. I hope to see you in the next one, and your ride safe. Bye. Bye-bye.